Time to have the wedding of a lifetime to crash.
Those are up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for a 2005 comedy film, a film that kind of revolutionized a new kind of R-rated comedy trend that started off in the 2000s, kind of died off ever since though. And as for one that stars two members of a gang called the Frat Pack of comedy, and that is of course 2005's Wedding Crashers. What's the plot is? Well, the 30-something years old bachelor partners and best friends divorce meditators John Beckwith and Jeremy Gray have a hobby of crashing weddings, following predetermined rules to have one night stand with different women. When they decide to crash the most important wedding of Washington, pretending they are brothers, in a party promoted by the Secretary of Treasury William Cleary, John breaks their rules and has a crush on Claire Cleary, and Jeremy scores a sex addicted Gloria Cleary, both daughters of William. Gloria invites Jeremy to spend the weekend at the Cleary family estate, and John sees a chance to be close to Claire. In spite of her engagement with the arrogant Zachary Zach Lodge, along the weekend of the dysfunctional Cleary family, John and Jerry will fall in love for the sisters, but their real identities jeopardize their relationship. How's this made? Well, Andrew Panay, co-producer of Wedding Crashers, had the idea for the film based on his own experiences of being excited to attend weddings in his 20s due to the prospect of meeting women. Panay then considered the screenwriting team of Steve Faber and Bob Fisher to come up with a story based on the premise. And much of the film was based upon Fisher's experience at a college item in Washington, D.C., where he would make up fake backstories to crash lobbyist events. Panay and Fisher's experiences merged together to form the idea of a film in which the main characters crash weddings in order to meet and sleep with women. The screenwriters had doubts that the premise could be sustained into a feature-length film, so they decided to add female love interests born from a political family inspired by their dream of marrying a girl from the Kennedy family when they were young boys. It was also Panay's desire to explore male friendship through this crazy idea of crashing weddings as the emotional core of the movie. In preparation for the film, the creators would crash political party platform committee meetings in order to delve into the psyche of the characters and what it means to crash a party. And then on April 6, 2003, Variety reported that both Faber and Fisher had struck a mid-six-figures deal with New Line Cinema to acquire the pitch for the film. And David Dobkin signed to direct in 2004, seeing it as an opportunity to pair Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, who had previously worked with the director and gave an Abbott and Costello impression. They were at the premiere of the film Shanghai Nights. And then Vaughn and Wilson were the first actors cast in the film even. Dobkin then cast newcomer at the time Bradley Cooper without even watching his audition tape, because he was impressed by the actor's test reading. Isla Fisher, a relatively unknown actress at the time, was cast as Gloria over Shannon Elizabeth and Anna Paquin. The casting of Secretary Cleary was a contentious issue between Dobkin and the studio executives, with Dobkin wanting to cast Christopher Walken, but New Line Cinema wanted a more comedic actor like Burt Reynolds instead of Walken, who was viewed as a serious character actor, and the role of Claire was the final role to be cast, with Dobkin auditioning over 200 actresses before casting Rachel McAdams. Director David Dobkin originally considered the possibility of releasing a version of the film that was not R-rated in order to broaden the film's commercial appeal, but the idea was abandoned after consultant proved a long list of many R-rated elements in the film, and Dobkin realized the two funniest scenes in the movie would have had to go. And despite New Line Cinema did not want the film to be rated R, they eventually conceded to keep the R rating after pressure from Dobkin. So after the film was shot and marketed, the movie would go on to be released on July 15, 2005. And was a sleeper hit. Through New Line Cinema did critical and commercial success, grossing $288.5 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. And it was the sixth highest grossing film in 2005 in the United States and became the first R-rated comedy to make $200 million at the domestic box office. The success of the film has been credited to helping to revive the popularity of adult-oriented R-rated comedies. Now, as for when it comes to my reaction, I do kind of find this movie to be a bit overhyped, but still, I think it's still good. I mean, it's not really that original and creative because it basically has the lie revealed cliche in the romance subplots and the typical romance cliches. The Frat Pack were surely the hardest working collective in Hollywood at the time. Hardly a month went by without a movie featuring Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jack Black, Will Ferrell, or those Wilson boys, Luke and Owen, being released in the 2000s. When Starsky and Hutch paired Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller, it happened to be a hit. And then when Dodgeball put Vince Vaughn with Ben Stiller, it also was a good hit. But Wedding Crashers was the finest frat pack pairing to date when this was released. And although Wilson and Vaughn had appeared in 4 movies together at the time, this is the first where they actually both took star billing. Then in Wedding Crashers, John Bedwick and Jeremy Clayne are a pair of divorce meditators, whose passion in life is sneaking into weddings to take advantage of the free food and, of course, score with girls. And they have a strict rule book, which dictates the ethique of the pickup, such as never use your real name, and also suggests by behaving raucously, loudly, and generally beating the life and soul, people will think you're so obnoxious you can't not have been invited. Although Wedding Crashers is at times formulaic, the comic performances raise this movie above par, and in lesser hands, the main characters could have descended to rom-com cliche. The fast-talking machine gun delivery of Vaughn is the perfect accompaniment to Wilson's iconic style, and their single guy's banter often painfully accurate, as is the acknowledgement they're both a little too old to be acting so carelessly. There are also some great comic set pieces too, like notably the divorce meeting, the weddings montage, the cringeworthy football game, and the hunting trip. The supporting cast are also an asset. Christopher Walken expertly walks a tightrope of being both really imitating and likable, while Roger McAdams' Claire has a charming vulnerability and an easy-to-fall-in-love-with quality, and former Home and Away pin-up Isla Fish, however, is less convincing. Though, the film is not just filled with cheap jokes and Twilight humor, there's actually a pretty mature love story to be found here as well. In all honesty, the script is not great, but the film works really well because of the cast. The actors bring life into their characters, and most of them give funny performances. Vince Vaughn is a true star of Wedding Crashers. His over-the-top performance is very funny. Some people may find him annoying though, but personally I think this is probably his best performance in a comedy film. Owen Wilson even gives a funny performance here. Not as good as Vince, but he holds his own. Together, Vaughn and Wilson have great chemistry and really make their scenes with one another really funny. And the film does have kind of a typical, obviously done-to-death plot, but it does kind of work here. It's a good throwback to the adult comedies of the 1970s. It wears its R rating proudly and proceeds to throw in as many sex jokes at you as possible, with the expected female nudity. Let's say it's nearly all the jokes are funny. The cast is attractive, spirited, and ready to go and give their all to this. Yes, it's still very raunchy and predictable, but I did like it. Vaughn and Wilson are just great. They play off each other well, and they're great at comedy. Rachel McAdams was one of the best young actresses at the time. Here, it appeared in 3 movies in 2005, and this one was probably her best. And her performance is pretty good, and it's really easy to love this character. A lot of people seem to love Isla's performance, but if I'm going to be honest here, guys, I kind of found Isla's character really annoying. She's basically plays this mentally disturbed chick that Vince Vaughn's character ends up falling in love with after he basically gets raped by her. I'm not kidding, guys. I'm not kidding. To me, that's not a good way to start a romantic couple, and it's not very funny, if I'm gonna be honest. But it's really the actors who make the difference. And it shows that Vaughn's much better in comedies here than in serious movies. Wilson does play himself, as in every one of his movies, and scores a good second place here. And Wedding Crashers indeed lives up to the long-loved frat pack formula, and still manages to take audiences by surprise in many aspects. It certainly pushes boundaries in terms of sexual content for humor, but fear not, the jokes are never in such bad taste that they fall into the realm of gross-out humor. The movie is far too funny for that, and surely enough, the key to the film's success lies in its 2 leads. Wilson and Vaughn seem to be a comedic match that is always meant to be. The effortless ease and skill they play off each other, managing to evoke a laugh from the most mundane of situations. Between Wilson's laid-back, easygoing persona and Vaughn's manic, fast-talking, and provisional skills, every second the two are on screen and never come across as less than superbly entertaining. And unfortunately, David Dobkin and our filmmakers are not content to make a movie revolving simply about the pair of them doing their thing. They find it necessary to convert the story to more of a cliched romance near the end. Not only is this approach fall overdone and not that enjoyable at all, but it completely crashes with the jovial mood of the first section. It was a good attempt at a more profound storyline. Ultimately, the film would have been more entertaining had it taken itself a bit more lightly and simply give Vaughn and Wilson more time to wreak havoc and playing off each other. As such, it is still a highly entertaining film, but mainly worth watching for the first half or so. This comedy does still feel fresh due to its likable cast and very nature of the jokes. The plot is still quite formulaic. The gigs generally work here, and there are some elements to this film which make a highly enjoyable watch. The likability and the funny Wilson and Vaughn, despite their sleazy lives, create a genuine interest in how events will pan out. They're extremely funny small roles, which keeps the film moving along and keeps the levels of laughs high. Christopher Walken's wife and son seem to have some very funny scenes which are unexpected and refreshing. The cherry on the top hour is a hilarious cameo role from Will Ferrell as Chaz Reinhold, the creator of Crashing Weddings, and even invents a new idea, basically, that invents crashing funerals. They gain even more sympathy from girls. Which, by the way, guys, is much worse than Crashing a Wedding. This film is worthwhile just to see his very funny portrayal, which lifts the movie to its obvious upbeat ending. However, but yeah, like I said before, guys, I did find this movie kind of overhyped. And here are the bad qualities and reasons why I find this movie overhyped. Is because of these cliches I have or have not mentioned. First off, our first cliche, yeah, the movie revolves around the liar-revealed story once our love interests are introduced in the film. And yeah, guys, you should know I hate that cliche because it gets overused now and it just ruins movies. How it literally goes, during this time this character makes up this lie to either fit in with this crowd because he either sees someone he likes or is an opportunity to be popular. He has this best friend that kind of joins in on it. In some versions of it. Then those friends get mad at one another as the course goes on, while the other friend's just trying to lay low. The protagonist decide to stupidly ignore the warnings and keep pursuing this group because he feels more welcome. Then, either their lie gets revealed eventually, or the villain will later expose them, or rival will expose them. The group gets furious, tells them to beat it, and get lost. Either love interest despises them, or despises the protagonist, and they walk off sad and some stupid sad music plays. Yeah, but then suddenly our main characters will reconcile. They realize they were much happier with that group than they were with their old lives. They reconcile with those new characters they met, and the story's over. That's how the liar revealed cliche goes. Bug's Life did it. Rango did it. I liked Rango, but still. What else did it? Oh boy, this is hard. Open Season did it. Over the Hedge did it. What can I think? Lots of films did it. A lot of kid movies do this cliche. I noticed. Second, it does go a little longer than it should. Like, a couple of scenes could have been cut out or at least trimmed. Like, this movie did not need to be 2 hours long. At 2 hours, a romp of a romantic comedy shouldn't feel this overlong. A lot of it for the story of Wilson and McAdams' characters, who have good chemistry, but don't have much room to go in the formula. And then you have another problem, which is underdeveloped or non-developed characters. And third, yeah, I know this is Bradley Cooper's first role in the movie, where he plays the abusive prick Zach Lodge. And I can get some people found him a funny villain, but I personally did not. I just found him extremely irritating to get through, and the character to be just an unlikable piece of shit. that belongs in jail because basically he'll just go around assaulting our main characters violently, which he thinks he's clearly allowed to assault just about anybody that tries to get in the way of his girl, Claire, that he treats like garbage. Somehow, literally, her whole family is oblivious to the fact he clearly doesn't actually like her, and just wants to use her to look cool with the secretary, and even cheats on her with a waitress. Like, how could her family not be so oblivious to his obviously nasty behavior? How? I really do not get that. It's up until it gets finally discovered in the final scene where he does get his desserts, when Vince Vaughn pretty much knocks his character square in his ass, basically, in the end of the movie. And fourth, also, like I said, I found Isla's character not funny and super annoying, and I don't get why Vince Vaughn's character would even marry her at the end after she basically raped him. Yeah. I don't really call that a happy ending. And, as for Walken's character, I do like Christopher Walken, but he seems kind of miscast in a film where his odd comic genius and timing could come in well, but he doesn't bring much to the table aside from maybe one laugh. Well, maybe not intentional. I mean, more could have been done with his character. However, despite those bad qualities, Wedding Crashers is still a decently good enough film. So, in the end, I do recommend Wedding Crashers for a watch, but I wouldn't expect you to find a masterpiece like people would happen to call it, so I would just stream it online. Anyway, that's it for my review of Wedding Crashers. If we're going to rank Wedding Crashers, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you love the Frat Pack films, then I would just recommend streaming this movie online, because you'll probably just get an occasional laugh out of it, and that's about it. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Wedding Crashers, I'm going to give Wedding Crashers a 7.5 out of 10. There we go. That pretty much wraps up my review for Wedding Crashers. I don't know when the next review is going to be. I'll have to think about that. But, yeah. So, guys, like you should know, I got nothing else to say, but that's going to be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Donji Corleone.